G'day guys, Mr. Oz Adventure here, and I'm coming at you today with another video from Tasmania. This time we're down in the southeast of Tasmania exploring the Tasman Peninsula. After spending the day at Port Arthur the day before, it was time to leave the place and head out and explore more of the area. But first, I just had to get one last photo at Port Arthur.
Well that's it for my Port Arthur stay. Yeah. Shame about the weather. It was awesome to finally come here. I'm heading off now to explore a few more other things in the Tasman Peninsula, and then I'm going to get on out of here because the radar says it's clear everywhere else, but it's raining here, so we'll see what happens. Let's go exploring.
The first place I was visiting on this little tour of the Tasman Peninsula was only 6 kilometres down the road at the remarkable cave. Turning out of my motel, it was just a short little cruise past the bay down to the rocky, rugged coastline that is the south of Tasmania. It really does feel like an inhospitable place down here. Crashing waves, wild winds, and rocky, rugged coastlines. But hidden away at the bottom of it all is this tiny little cave that you can apparently walk through at low tide.
Just down the road from Port Arthur is this spot, remarkable cave. I saw this on YouTube and thought, oh, I wonder where that is. It turned out it was right next to Port Arthur, so I thought I could have a look. And in the video that I watched, you can walk through there. So the seas were obviously a bit calmer than today, and yeah, the tide was probably a little bit different, but there's no way I'm getting in there today. It is wild.
It was absolutely freezing cold and blowing a gale down there at the remarkable cave, so I didn't hang around for too long. I just wanted to get back on the bike, keep exploring, and hopefully find somewhere a little bit warmer. But first I wanted to stop and check out the harbour that I'd really missed out on seeing the day before due to the bad weather.
Alright, so that's the harbour I was out on yesterday in the boat cruise from Port Arthur. It looks vastly different today. You could not see anything out there, you couldn't even see this land over here. So just around on the other side of that jetty over there, the building in the clearing, that is Port Arthur, that's the shipyards. And a little island out in the middle, that is the Isle of the Dead, where they buried all the convicts. And over on this side, the spit of land just continues around, but I don't think there's anything really there significantly to see these days. That's Point Pure, which is the boys' prison. Send all the kids under the age of 18 there, from 9 years old to 18. Mostly teenagers though, around 13 to 15 years old.
Leaving the Port Arthur area, it was a nice little cruise right up through the middle of the Tasman Peninsula, up to the northwest, where I was going to be visiting the coal mines historic site. It was quite a relaxing ride. In fact, the whole day was quite a relaxing ride, really. Gently winding roads, through farmland, past scenic bays dotted with little beach shacks and tiny little general stores here and there, rivers and other waterways. Finally ending up at the coal mines historic site, roughly half an hour later.
Alright, just arrived at the Convict coal mines. The coal mines historic site is one of 7 sites on the Convict trail that winds its way around the Tasman Peninsula. So it only took me about 30 minutes to ride over here, but back in the day they would have either had to have gone all the way around by ship or across the land, which would have taken all day by horseback. So they mined coal here between 1833 and 1877. All work carried out by all the convicts in harsh conditions, no doubt.
Every metre of this chain stands for 5 years of history. As you follow it, you'll walk through 2 centuries. This site began in 1833, and by the late 1920s the place was deserted and the buildings were in ruins. Coal Mines Historic Site is a rare insight into Australia's convict history and the use of hard labour to exploit local resources. 1803, first European settlement in Tasmania at Risdon Cove on the Derwent River. 1830, establishment of Port Arthur penal colony. 1833, surveyors discover an outcrop of coal at this site. 1834, government begins coal mining and using convict labour from Port Arthur. 1848, the government closes the mine because of low quality coal, production inefficiency and concerns about the moral state of the station. In the 1870s, mining continues under a succession of private leaseholders. The buildings fall into disrepair. Turned into a sheep station after that. Last recorded leasehold of the mine workings were in 1901. Have a look out there. So this is a big bay. This is looking northward. So we're on the sheltered side of the peninsula here, as opposed to where Port Arthur is on the other side, which is directly accessed from the ocean. When I did the ghost tour last night at Port Arthur, they were saying that the parson, the priest, he rode over here to give his last rites to a prisoner who was about to die. It was just wild, wet, cold conditions. It took him like 9 hours to ride back by horseback, and he came down with pneumonia and he ended up passing away. Then they said there was issues with his coffin. He was a big guy and they couldn't get it out of the building, so they tried to get it out through a window, and he fell off the roof and smashed. And they reckon that's why he haunts the place today. I don't know, they said there was a tramway down here. I don't see a tramway. Maybe this path was the tramway from the water. It might have pulled up down here, and this path that's carved up there was the tramway, I guess, to the coal mine. They'll bring the coal down here to the ships. That's my guess anyway. Would have been a different old world back then in the days of the convict settlement. Very harsh. So these are the convict barracks. So just cells, just like Port Arthur. They housed them in little cells, tiny little cells. They're all built by the convicts themselves. So it's all closed off underground now. You can't get into the actual underground coal mine, but you can walk through where they lived and everything. All the other buildings and structures, the ruins of everything around. Got a central little track just going through here, and then there's just ruins of buildings all that side and all this side of the track. Would have been a busy little community at the time. But man, how harsh, how cold would have been in those cells in winter, right next to the water there, the wind blowing straight in there. At its peak, almost 600 convicts and 27 military personnel lived and worked here, along with some civilians, including women and children. The mines were badly managed, production was inefficient, and the coal was of poor quality. At the time, there were moral concerns about homosexuality, which was common, and in 1848, the colonial government closed the mines on moral and financial grounds. That looks like it was probably a toilet at some stage. Man, if these walls could talk, the amount of boots that have gone over this entranceway. So many structures around, so many little hills and mounds, and yeah, it's hard to imagine what it would have been like. This place is just absolutely mental. So these are all made of different brick, these buildings. The convict barracks and the main buildings, they're all made of the larger sort of sandstone bricks, blocks, and then some of the other buildings are made of this smaller brick, which was used in the chimneys and stuff as well. Not sure why. The solitary punishment cells were just underground, built into the hill. Dark, dank, no light.
creepy. You just can't see anything in those inner cells, they're absolutely pitch black. Well, that was really fascinating. Pretty cool spot to see. I was always going to come down to Port Arthur, but I didn't know this place existed until I started looking at Port Arthur and doing a bit of Google searching before I came. Yeah, that was a nice little surprise. It's free to enter and just as historically significant as Port Arthur itself. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was a nice little tour. On to more adventures we go.
There were so many other things I wanted to see and check out on the Tasman Peninsula, but I really didn't have the extra couple of days I needed to see all the stuff. I really would have liked to have done some more bushwalks and hikes around the area. There are some great walks on the Tasman Peninsula, but I just didn't have the time, and there are other things in the rest of Tasmania I wanted to see and do before I left. I was quickly running out of days left on Tasmania, and there were heaps of things I still wanted to see and do. So it was a quick squirt over to the other side of the peninsula before I left the area, just to see one last little thing.
Just coming out of the lower Tasman Peninsula now, after being at Port Arthur and the Convict coal mine. I just got back to Eagle Hawk Neck and saw the sign for the blowhole, so this is the blowhole. There's a little bit of a cave through there, and the tide comes through there and just goes bang on the rocks on the other side here. Just waiting for the big explosion. Come on, you can do it.
The weather and tide conditions weren't on my side to see the blowhole in its full glory that day, but it was still a nice little spot to stop off and have a look. It was time though to head on out and continue my journeys back towards Hobart. But I had to stop off for one last little photo, of course I did, overlooking Pirates Bay. It was bloody windy there, and I had an absolute nightmare trying to keep my gloves on the bike. Just placed them on the seat as usual to take a photo. They blew off into the bushes, picked them up, put them back on the seat, went to take another photo, and of course the wind picked up again, blowing them back into the bushes. I had a bit of a laugh editing this footage. I'd forgotten all about that little moment, but eventually got my gloves back on. My hands were nice and toasty, and it was time to finally leave the Tasman Peninsula, heading back over Eagle Hawk Neck, the thin, narrow strip of land that had the dog chain. It was a vastly different scene as I rode through Eagle Hawk Neck though. This little area of water here was not there 2 days ago as I rode through. It was completely dry. All the rain we'd had the previous day when I was at Port Arthur, it created a nice little lake. But enough of that. I'd left the Tasman Peninsula and started to cruise back towards Hobart for more adventures, taking the back way, some nice little scenic back roads overlooking the water. It was a beautiful cruise which led to some more historic adventures in Hobart, but more of that coming up in the next video. Thanks for watching guys, hopefully I'll see you on that one. Windy Wellington, just at the base of that really. Okay, $8 to get in, I can do that. Yeah, let's do that. Well, that was quite interesting. It sort of tied in well with the Port Arthur tours that I've already done, and sort of completes the story, I guess, a little bit. Gives me a better picture of the convict history of Australia and